Okay, this is a walkthrough of an article from the New England Journal of Medicine. It's a very prominent medical journal, very prestigious. The article is called "A Surgical Safety Checklist to Reduce Morbidity and Mortality in a Global Population." It is written by all of these people. There's a lot of authors. These people in some way contributed to the study. Haynes et al. Haynes is listed first for a reason. Alex Haynes contributed the most to the study. That's why he is the first author listed. It is also worth noting that the very last author listed is Atul Gawande. He's a very famous writer. He has written an entire book about using checklists both in the medical field and in other fields. This article is meant to represent what is often called IMRAD style. IMRAD is an acronym. It stands for Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion. Now, in this abstract, you can see that they've switched out some of the labeling. We're not calling it introduction, we're calling it a background. Methods, results, that's consistent. Discussion, they have labeled conclusions here in the abstract. Means the same thing, and it's a really prominent style. It's something you'll see a lot in medical journals. New England Journal of Medicine, among other major medical journals, uses it all the time. We're going to do a walkthrough of some of the rhetorical moves of the IMRAD structure. The introduction should accomplish a specific goal. It should justify the research as something that contributes to the scientific community. You've got to make a case that what you're saying is important. The acronym that is used to describe this is CARS, create a research space, and we're going to be talking about the specific moves that involve. So the first move is to say something is important to the community which you're approaching. In this case, they're talking about surgery and the importance of it, how often it happens, how it happens all around the world. Surgical care is an integral part of healthcare throughout the world, with an estimated 234 million operations performed annually. This yearly volume now exceeds that of childbirth. Surgery is performed in every community, wealthy and poor, rural and urban, and in all regions. So there they've kind of set some precedent to say, okay, surgery is really important. It happens all around the world. It's a constant thing that it takes place within the medical community. Now, we won't read through all of this, but eventually they get to the point that surgery also causes problems. Although surgical care can prevent loss of life and limb, it also is associated with considerable risk of complications and death. They're exposing a problem. When we're talking about creating a research space, you're trying to expose something that is of interest to the field that is studying it, or some problem that people are trying to solve. So here we have the first two moves. Surgery is very important. Surgery can be dangerous. There's a risk of death. There's a risk of complications. And then they point towards a solution. Right here, data suggests that at least half of all surgical complications are avoidable. And they further this idea by saying that good practices help avoid complications and unnecessary deaths in surgery. And they point out that the World Health Organization has published guidelines identifying multiple recommended practices to ensure the safety of surgical patients worldwide. They open up their own research as a sort of solution, as something that can help reduce the rate of complications in surgical procedures. On the basis of, let's skip down to the next page, on the basis of these guidelines, we designed a 19-item checklist intended to be globally applicable and to reduce the rate of major surgical complications. Now, let's think about what they've accomplished so far. They have clarified that there's something that is of importance to the medical community. They have pointed out a problem that the medical community is trying to solve, and then they have proposed their own research or their own program as something that can help alleviate that problem or help solve it. That's what an introduction should do. It should make an argument that the research that you are reporting on is necessary, that it helps solve some problem, that it helps make things better in some way. Now they get to methods. Methods are written theoretically for other professionals working in the field so that they could go recreate this study. It should be a sort of justification. It's something that says to the medical community or to the scientific community, whatever the topic is about, that they used good methodology, that they did things right. So let's just read a little bit of the methods section. And notice the language is very straightforward. It is just describing what it was that they did, and in some cases why they did it. We conducted a prospective study of pre-intervention and post-intervention periods at 8 hospitals participating as pilot sites in the Safe Surgery Saves Lives programs. These institutions were selected on the basis of their geographic distribution within WHO regions, with the goal of representing a diverse set of socioeconomic environments in which surgery is performed. They're kind of justifying their methodology in a subtle way. So this is what you'll see throughout the methods section. Statements of what they did, and then statements of why they did it, like what their rationale was for doing what they did. We will not read through this entire methods section, but you can see this sort of pattern repeated often. They will say, we did this, and we did it for such and such reason. Here's the rationale behind it. And they go through and describe, well, quite literally what they did. They talk about data collection, they talk about outcomes and how they measured those. This is them still listing all of the things that they did and why they did it in the study. We should also note there is a section on statistical analysis. This is something you'll see in a lot of papers. They're trying to justify what they did statistically. Often this is where they will talk about p-values. If you don't know what a p-value is, don't worry about it. We will talk about it later on in the semester. So that's methods. They're essentially saying, here's what we did. There's also a section called results. Results, well, simply enough, are the results of the study. And often you'll find in IMRAD's reports, there's sort of an overlap in these sections, because you can see even though this is called results, they start with, once again, methods.